In the constantly changing world of fundability, the big question is this: how are entrepreneurs and real estate investors like us, ones who want to grow our businesses and who are tired of paying for really expensive alternative lending, how do we tap into the most inexpensive money available and do it without the hassle of typical borrowing? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. Welcome to the Get Fundable podcast with your host, Merrill Chandler.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Merrill Chandler, your host of the Get Fundable podcast, where we take it to the mat in every possible way so that we can create fundability, right? Like my new book, The New F Word. Oh, there's an F there. It's just green. So the new F word is fundability, how to get fundable. So in this episode of the podcast, we're going to be talking about the truth. But stay with me. It's a little more deceptive than we think. Some of you really dig my perspectives, the dots that I connect that I haven't heard a lot of people connect it this way. So stay tuned. We'll come back and we're going to talk about the truth and how it impacts you as an entrepreneur, a real estate investor, a businessman or businesswoman, a professional, because it isn't as easy or it isn't as simple as we might think it is. And that's the very point I'm going to make. So when we come back, I'll see you in just a second and we'll get started. Welcome back, everybody. Merrill Chandler, your host of the Get Fundable podcast. So what is the truth? I'm going to tell you that this isn't a religious discussion. It's not even a philosophical discussion. We're going to talk about how your ideas, my ideas of the truth, literally pull the rug out from underneath our deals, the opportunities to grow with our loved ones, our families, our relationships, and how we literally turn money away because of what you believe is the truth, right? Way more than just myths about credit, some of the things we've talked about in the past. Way more than this. So let's get down some principles, some success principles that I like to discuss. First of all, the failings of the human condition. We see what we want to see. Bottom line. Remember when I talked about the ostrich and some of the credit behaviors? I mean, it happens all the time in our funding lives, happens in our business lives. We only see what we want to see. We want to avoid everything else. So I'm going to give you a little juicy nugget here that I want you to go to the Get Fundable Facebook page and let's battle it out. Tell me if you agree. Tell me if you don't agree. Go to the greatest place is at the boot camp, where everybody's throwing in and weighing in on topics just like this, right? But I want to know. So here's what I posit. Here's what I say. That the single most powerful experience in the human condition is denial. Denial, I mean, some people say it's love. And I would say that would be, I would vote that to be number one, except so many of us, because of whatever reason, we deny that someone loves us, or we deny that we're even lovable, right? So love can't be the greatest experience in the human, or the greatest, the most powerful and high impact experience, because we push away. We don't just push away money. We push away love. We push away connection. We push a lot of things away for dozens of reasons. But you and I will deny anything we don't want to see because we're afraid of it, or we don't believe that it's possible or true. Remember my episode a while back where I said fear of failure, fear of success, right? If you haven't listened to that one, go there, because both things can exist in us. We can be afraid to fail and we get afraid to succeed. So principle number one, We will see what we want to see, and we will refuse to see anything else. Now, another way of saying this is we like to filter for being right. We won't take in all the information, all that. Remember, everything I talk about in Fundability, guys, everything that I talk about is about data points, right? Information. Information is not bad. Our beliefs about that information, yeah, that's what we kind of shy away from. That's what we want to deny. I mean, watch it in any adventure movie, right? There's a stone rolling down the hill at an individual, and the very first thing that they're unwilling to believe that a stone is coming at them. We just can't see the fact that our lives are in peril, right? There were people, bless their soul, God bless every single one of them. There were people responding, first responders, in the 9/11 crisis, and the individuals. Remember the tragic views of people who didn't believe they had a way out. It was before the collapse, and they're literally jumping for their lives because it was probably better to try that than what the end result was, right? How many people couldn't take it in? Oh, it won't collapse. Oh, it won't be. The tragedy of how many people died. But I'm telling you right now, I'd be one of the people who would jump for my life. I would try to slide down the side of that damn building and take death as a choice rather than believe that, you know what, maybe the first responders can get to me. Maybe, and we all have different experiences of this, but the point I'm making is that we will filter our experience to deny the truth of what's actually happening. Right now, the way I did an article that will be coming out. I don't know, it'll be a few weeks or whatever. But think of it this way: we look around ourselves, and there is 360 degrees, right? At least in this time space, there's 360 degrees. But you and I are looking at each other. Let's say you're watching instead of listening. You and I are looking at each other. You can see with perfect vision, 20/20 vision. You can see what's in my blind spot. And if you were sitting across from me, I could see what's in yours. You can't see it unless you turn around. And when you turn around, your blind spot shifts. By hook or by crook, unless we're sitting in a round mirror, we just normal day-to-day living, you and I are blind to half of what's going on in our lives. Half of it. You know who isn't blind to that? Our partner, our loved ones, our friends, our business partners. We ignore what's in our blind spot, but we don't have a single problem pointing out what's in somebody else's, what they're blind to, what they can't see, their frailties, their challenges in life. So we point it out. We don't have a problem because to us, you got to be able to see it. It's clear as day. You're a arrogant narcissist. And I'm like, what? I thought I was just self-centered, right? You can't see your blind spot, and I can't see mine. Now, here's where it comes in. So, what is the truth? And I take this to heart, meditate on it. And like I said, if you like what we're talking about, talk to me in Get Fundable Facebook group or the Get Fundable page. Just go on Facebook. Just go there. Let's hash it out. I'd love to talk to you guys. But the truth is the sum of all possible perceptions of a fact. I'll say that again. The truth of something is the sum of all possible perceptions. Okay? Remember the old story? Some of us may have heard or recall that it was the 5 blind men all run into an elephant, and each one was asked to describe the elephant. And the one who grabbed the trunk said, "Oh, it's like an anaconda snake. It's long and and the ability to move and act like a snake." The other one grabs its tail and says, "It's like a duster. It I can clean my house with it." One finds one touches the legs and like it's like a pillar. I mean, that could hold up an entire wall. Every single one of them were not wrong. They just had a limited perspective. The truth of the elephant is the sum of all possible perceptions, all possible experiences of that elephant. And to even push it further, what about the flea that's on the back of the elephant? There's an entire universe, an entire landscape that flea experiences that is radically different than any other perspective. Let's take a look at that elephant from a satellite perspective. There's even a greater landscape, and that elephant fits within an ecosystem, and it's part of this grand savanna we call the Serengeti. Not any one of those perspectives is wrong, but every one of those perspectives is limited. The truth of a thing is the sum of all possible experiences of it, all possible perceptions of it. Now, let's go back to your and my blind spots. Because guess what? I have surrounded myself with individuals who are courageous and unwilling to sell me out. We wouldn't be partners, friends, or teammates if they did. I willingly admit I have no clue what's in my blind spot on that spiritual, metaphorical, emotional, mental. I can't see all of my faults as easily as you can. And isn't it funny? You can see what's in somebody's way in talking to them for 5 minutes, and they've been living their entire lifetimes and may be completely blind to it, right? It happens all the time. And unless we ask for feedback, unless we ask our partner to show us how we are not aware, we'll never know. And most of us are afraid of this information, right? To me, they're data points. I'm that geek. They're data points. And so we're in denial. Many of us are in denial, and we're afraid to see our blind spots. But the truth of our lives, guys, the truth of our lives is the sum of all the perceptions of our lives, including those from our business partners, our spouses, our lovers, our friends, our neighbors, the barista that makes our coffee. If they see something and comment about it, or in our defensive mechanisms, we'll say, "Hey, somebody's copying attitude." Well, have you ever asked why they're giving you attitude? Most of us are in denial, and we'll point our finger over there and say, "They're an asshole," or they're having a bad day, right? Because we're blind to even how we speak. Here's a perfect example. It's kind of another amount, but it's like, have you noticed that you cannot see you in 3D like everybody else on the planet can see you? When you and I look in a mirror, it's backwards and two-dimensional. There is no depth perception to it. And even if we watch ourselves on video, it's still two-dimension. We cannot, but in many of the trainings that I've taken and the ones that that we have, we actually videotape our advisors, our trainers. We videotape them so they can see themselves how they show up. And sometimes, if you've ever done it, sometimes you're like, "That's what I look like on film. That's what I sound like on a recording," and we're disconcerted. We don't like it. We're afraid of it. Rather than leaning in and video, watch who we are. Watch what everybody sees that we never get to see. So sometimes And there's been this whole movement over the last 20 years. They're like, there's not the truth, there's your truth and my truth. And what may be true for you is not true for me. But the truth of the matter is the sum of your experience and mine. So when it comes to I never go religion, politics, any of those things. Do you know why? Do you know why? Because the truth of politics is the sum of all the possible experiences of it. So I can be compassionate and in my discussions with anybody. I can love and engage anybody in a conversation because it's not about being right and wrong. It's about hearing the other person's perspective, because their perspective may reveal something in my blind spot. And the reason why you guys even come to my podcast is I'm showing you things in your blind spot, things you weren't aware of, things that you didn't know about. Fundability is just one more way that we're either in denial or we believe limited beliefs. I will never say your belief is wrong or you have a wrong belief or you're not right about what you believe. Never, because you're not. But just like the blind man on the elephant, we may be limited in our beliefs. We may not believe enough. And here's one of the fun things that I always talk when I engage individuals in my trainings and the opportunities, is that sometimes we're really critical of another person's thoughts, ideas, beliefs, or otherwise, right? But are we critical enough? Most of us are critical when we see somebody else's blind spot. We see how they're living their lives, believing the deals they're doing. Don't do that deal because you're going to crash and burn. Now, I'm not saying you're not right. I'm not saying that they're wrong. What I'm saying is that most of the time we're not critical enough because we filter everything through our comfort zone. And so things are right or wrong based on how comfortable they make us feel. And again, that's not a bad thing, but it is a limited thing. It is a limited thing. So I put out to you guys in this podcast, no matter what deals you're doing, no matter how you are with your partners, your spouses, your loved ones, this is crazy important with your kids, especially when they're rebelling against when they're trying to establish independence from your belief system or your behaviors or your way of living. What if they're not wrong? What if it's just more information? And that we could have compassion and understanding so that we don't divide ourselves, but we bring ourselves together. How many deals have you guys done? Seriously, how many? When you've used a credit partner, a hard money lender, somebody who's invested in the property, or a private lender? How many of them were rocky or had problems because of a different perspective? When the truth of the deal was, if we knew it then, the truth of the deal is the sum of both perspectives. How many relationship failings, how many deal failings, how many parent-child relationships could we heal or mend if we were just willing to let them talk to us about what they see in our blind spot, how our beliefs may limit us. Remember, in the foreword of my book, I literally say the purpose of this book is to reconcile the relationship between borrowers and lenders. But somebody has to go first. So my challenge to you, if you guys are binging these, or if this is your very first episode, if you're binging, if you like what we talk about, remember, you're open to me because I may appear like a subject matter expert in fundability, right? Everything makes sense. Even though I've told you a dozen times, don't believe me, try it. If it works, then you know for yourself. but at least you're open to some, lots, maybe all of what I'm at least presenting, right? You're willing to take it for a spin and see how it fits. What if you did that with your children? What if you did that with your partners? What if you did that with your spouse, your lover, the deals that you do with others? What if you ask them to show you what's in my blind spot? What am I filtering? What am I unwilling to see about this deal? How many of you have lost a deal because you didn't ask enough questions, or after the fact? Remember what they say, hindsight is 2020. Do you know why it's 2020? Because there's no blind spot after the fact. You get to, it worked or it didn't, and you get to take apart and deconstruct what worked and what didn't. But what if you could deconstruct it in advance? What if you took in other people's perspectives? What if you actually asked other people what their perspective is? I'm not saying that they're right. I'm saying it's more information. What I'm also saying is they're not wrong. Can you see how you can not be right and also not be wrong? What if it's just information that we take in, and then we look at that deal and say, oh, you know what? I didn't even ask about the roof. I didn't even do a foundation check. Oh, I didn't ask that hard money lender what the points were on the second round when I needed to renew it. Whatever it was. We've all been bozos in these deals. I've told you before, I know how to get money and invest money. Through other people's money. For 14 months, I did a fix and flip that was the worst experience of my life. So that's why I don't teach you how to be real estate investors or do fix and flips. I tried one, and while after 14 months it was finally profitable, it was the pain in my ass from start to finish. And a lot of it was because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And of course, me being the guy that I am, I didn't know this principle yet. I've learned it through hard knocks, just like you're learning it through hard knocks. I ignored completely, perfectly, what after the fact would be perfectly good intel. I didn't know how to ask for it. I didn't know how to see it. And I was filtering because this was a good deal. And so I filtered for the good deal about it, and being right about it. I didn't filter for my blind spot or my perceptions and completely ignore in the 180 degrees that is here and behind me. So, guys, think of it this way. The truth is the truth of anything, the truth of a thing is the sum of all the experiences and all the perceptions you can have. Your deals, there is a truth to your deals. There's a truth to your partnerships. There's a truth to your marriage or your friendships. There's a truth, but it's not yours. You don't have a monopoly. You got 180 degrees of lost. And so do they. And I don't know if it's by divine design or pure divine comedy, but I'm telling you, we need each other so that we can see our blind spots. Now, of course, we need to do it with compassion and understanding and love and support and clear, honest communication. But guys, let's go first. You're going first with your lenders. You're going first. Now let's go first with our family members, our children, our spouses. Let's go first. Let's choose first to be open to what's in our blind spot and not ignore what's back there. The thing that they can see effortlessly. And they likely will then say, hey, you were so open about what I wanted to share with you about what's going on back there behind you that you can't see. Will you do the same for me? If you make it a negative experience, it's probably going to be short-lived, and you're just going to walk around your whole life with a blind spot. And you're going to have that blind spot kick you in the ass, because that's where it is, over and over and over and over and over again. Let's play easy. Let's play simple, right? Let's not filter. Let's not be the ostrich. Let's take in the information, and let's shift our minds to at least understand that the truth is all the perceptions of the thing we're talking about. Imagine if you went to your next deal open to all the perceptions. You've got your cabinet people, you've got your demo people, and you literally honestly looked at them for as though they could see things that you can't see. Instead of being 90% good or 95% good, maybe you're 100% aware of a deal. When you're making an offer on a house, when you're buying a new franchise, imagine that the person you're negotiating with has a valid perspective. And then finally, all of this comes down to, how do we collaborate then for a win for all of us? You see my blind spot, I see your blind spot. I agree, the truth is the sum of of everything that's going on here. Given that, how do we collaborate instead of compete? How do we both win here in this? And that's with our children. That's with our wives and husbands. That's with our partners. How do we collaborate so that we both walk out of here way more aware of what's going on and way more successful in every endeavor we go in? This is Merrill Chandler, your host of the Get Fundable podcast. I wish there was an F word for fantastically foresightful about being the fullness and being open to the fullness of who you are, and relying on others and trusting others to see your blind spot. You have a spectacular rest of your day, and I will see you on the next episode of the Get Fundable podcast. Bye now.
Thank you for listening to the Get Fundable podcast. Please leave comments, because Merrill would love to read about your aha moments from this episode. And be sure to visit getfundable.com to read our blog, get important links, join our community, and much, much more, like ordering Merrill's tell-all book that is changing the world, The New F Word. And you got to tell your friends about this podcast, because we want them to get fundable too.